boy, am I glad that I save emails, because I was looking for private messages to show you how Shavei Israel works, and I don't mind when Shavei Israel does legitimate work, but I agree with the contention that Shavei Israel has, I hope I'm using the right word, an insidious motive in some of the work that they do. Someone said on Wikipedia about the Bnei Menashe, for example, the guy's name was Lev Grinberg. He said that, quote-unquote, right-wing Jewish groups wanted such conversions of distant people to boost the population in areas disputed by the Palestinians. I really don't think that that's the issue, though. I really think the issue is that Shavei Israel does not want Bnei Anusim and other Jewish people who are Messianic Jews, so they bring in those who claim to be Jewish and are willing to be Gerim in order to take away from Messianic Jews the right to aliyah. And I was looking for the comments from Michael Freund when he had once added me on Facebook, and I'm glad I found them. I'm glad I saved my emails, because it just shows you how, for lack of a better term, how insidious this guy is. Let's see. It says, he had 2,002 friends at the time, and it didn't say, as far as I recalled at the time, how many years Noah spent building the ark, and so we got into an argument about that, and he said, Kazel says so based on an interpretation of the verses, see Rashi, and well, I'm Messianic, so I just go by what Scripture says, and if the Talmud has useful gems, I go ahead and use the gems that don't contradict with Scripture, that is, the gems in the Talmud. And then things got really heated, and he said, so you go by the Christian Bible, but not your own people's interpretations. That makes no sense at all. And then he said something about, that is incorrect. The Christian Bible is Christian, not Jewish. I feel sorry for you because you clearly have little or no knowledge of Jewish history and beliefs. You wouldn't buy a car without carefully checking it out first, but you would throw away the religion of your forefathers without knowing anything about it. That is neither spiritually honest nor intellectually coherent. Check out Judaism thoroughly before you go embracing other faiths. You owe at least that much to your ancestors. Well, with all due respect, Mr. Freund, what you owe to anybody, if you want to talk about owing people anything, first of all, you owe me an apology. Secondly, you owe other Messianic Jews, including Messianic Bnei Anusim, an apology. Thirdly, you owe these Gerim who you are deceiving and letting themselves think that they are Jewish, an apology. Okay? And it says, right in the Wikipedia article, and by the way, Wikipedia, who absolutely despises Messianic Jews, had to concede that the Bnei Menashe had no Middle Eastern DNA, and if they did, it was some Middle Eastern DNA, but that was it. It says, quote, in December 2004, Kolkata's Central Forensic Science Laboratory posted a paper at Genome Biology on the internet. They tested a total of 414 people from tribal communities of Mizoram, and it names the people that it says they found no evidence among the men of Y-DNA haplotypes indicating Middle Eastern origin. Rather, the haplotypes were of East and Southeast Asian origin. Among the 50 women whom they tested for mtDNA, they found some evidence of Middle Eastern origin, which may have been an indicator of their intermarriage during the migration period. The paper did not undergo peer review. While DNA is not used as a determinant for Jewish ancestry, it can be an indicator. And let's see. According to a Professor Skoretsky, the geneticists did not do a complete genetic sequencing of all the DNA, and therefore it is hard to rely on the conclusions derived from partial sequencing, and they themselves admit this. Let's see, it says, the absence of a genetic match still does not say that the Gookie do not have origins in the Jewish people, and it is possible that after thousands of years it is difficult to identify the traces of a common genetic origin. However, positive answer can give a significant indication. And the indication that we have, let's see, it says in November 2006, an Indian historian claimed to have found a genetic link between his northern Pathan clan and lost tribe of Ephraim. And again, maybe there is a genetic connection. I don't know. But where there are proven genetic connections, where there are records, and where does everything else? And how conveniently that Michael Freund and his anti-Messianic groups dodge, and they say things like, for example, they said this about the, Halil Halkin said about the supposed Bnei Menashe and Bnei Ephraim. He said, there's no such thing as Jewish DNA, which is bull, because they have proven that there's Jewish DNA. They've proven that the specific markers E3B and the J markers are Jewish. They found a Cohen Moda haplotype. And let's see, there is a genetic pattern which is very common in the Middle East. 40% of Jews worldwide have it and 60% do not have it, but many non-Jews and people in the Middle East have it also. Well, you know what? Again, they found specific markers that are Jews. And not only that, but maybe those people are Bnei Anusim who were never told that they were Jewish. Oh, because perhaps either, obviously they were Anusim and didn't know that they were Jewish, or they were both Anusim and Messianic and not given the chance because, they believe in a Jewish man. And sorry, that doesn't fit with so-called Rashi, the so-called rabbi. And conveniently enough, Jesus says not to call anyone rabbi, but for Jesus himself. And conveniently enough, the types like Michael Freund don't like that. Why? Because they would rather rely on tradition than on Scripture itself. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and look at Scripture. One of the verses that I like is this. You want to talk about tradition? You want to talk about making trouble? You want to talk about doing things that you're not supposed to be doing? You want to talk about things that are not Jewish? Well, here you go. It says, therefore Jehovah said, inasmuch as these people draw near with their mouths and honor me with their lips, but have removed their hearts far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the commandment of men, therefore, behold, I will again do a marvelous work among this people, a marvelous work and wonder, for the wisdom of their wise men shall perish, and the understanding of their prudent men shall be hidden. That is Isaiah or Yeshayahu 29:13-14. And it's funny how he says, I don't know anything about Jewish tradition and what have you. Well, I've done a lot of research, thank you very much. And I'm going to get to the little part in the Talmud after I read this verse. This is Yirmiyahu 8:8-9. How can you say we are wise and the law of Jehovah is with us? Look, the false pen of the scribe certainly works falsehood. The wise men are ashamed. They are dismayed and taken. Behold, they have rejected the word of Jehovah. So what wisdom do they have? And if you want to prove that the Talmud is a tradition of men, we'll go right to the Talmud itself. And we will go right to a chapter that a lot of people point out rightly is right in line with Yeshayahu 29 and Yirmiyahu 8. And this little, for lack of a better term, this little tractate of the Talmud is Bava Metzia 59, and people say, well, anti-Semites quote this. I'm sorry, so do, for example, Karaites, and Karaites are certainly not anti-Semitic. By the way, Karaite or Mikrai, or Mikrati, depending on which word you want to use. Mikrai or Mikrati means scriptural or scripturalist. And if people who criticize the following are anti-Semitic, then Karaites are anti-Semitic. So let's go ahead and look at this little gem. It's in Tractate 59b of Bava Metzia. Let's see. It talks about a debate over an oven. It says, again he said to them, if the halakha agrees with me, let it be proved from heaven. Whereupon a heavenly voice cried out, why do you dispute with Rabbi Eliezer, seeing that in all matters the halakha agrees with him? But Rabbi Joshua arose and exclaimed, it is not in heaven. What did he mean by this? Said Rabbi Jeremiah, that the Torah had already been given at Mount Sinai. We pay no attention to a heavenly voice, because thou hast long since written in the Torah at Mount Sinai, after the majority one must incline. And of course the original verse is, and we can go ahead and read it right now actually. It is Exodus. It's in Exodus 23. And of all people, Nehemiah Gordon pointed this out. It says, this is Exodus 23, so Shemot 23, verse 2, you shall not follow a crowd to do evil, so you shall not incline after the majority to do evil, nor shall you testify in a dispute so as to turn aside after many to pervert justice. And let's see what the Talmud claims on this. So we went to that footnote. And we're going back to where, footnote 5. And it says Exodus 23:2. So man, it really twisted that. And it says, though the story is told in a legendary form, this is a remarkable assertion of the independence of human reasoning. And of course, we know that human reasoning is quite corrupt. And we'll go back to where it talks about what happened. So they're debating and, they're yelling at God and saying, basically, no, you wrote Torah. What you wrote in Torah apparently goes. Oh, unless we like to twist it in the Talmud. And it says, Rabbi Nathan met Elijah and asked him, what did the Holy One, blessed be he, do in that hour? He laughed. He replied, saying, my sons have defeated me. My sons have defeated me. It was said, on that day, all objects which Rabbi Eliezer had declared clean were brought and burnt in fire. Then they took a vote and excommunicated him. Well, wait a minute. If the heavenly voice apparently agreed with Eliezer, shouldn't he have been their Messiah? But no, they excommunicated him. So even in terms of the Talmud, for one thing, whoever wrote the Talmud thinks that he's a heck of a lot better than God. And he also thinks he's a lot better than who, according to the Talmud, should have been a Messiah. And again, Michael Freund wants to talk about, he says, but you would throw away a religion of your forefathers without knowing anything about, you know what? No offense, but unless I'm wrong, I think I know a little more than Michael Freund, especially since I've done the research, especially to see what my ancestors believed in. And you know what? I am, frankly, I'm sick of when Shavei Israel brings up these so-called Bnei Menashe and the other claimants to being Jewish who are quite questionable, especially the Bnei Menashe. As I said, when Shavei Israel does legitimate work, like when they work with the Kaifing Jews, or when they work with the Messianic Anusim, or when they work with there are other groups, but where I have questions is when they take in groups like the so-called Bnei Menashe and even the Subotniks, because they're trying to push out Messianics. It's not about the so-called Palestinians. It's about Messianic Jews, who, to the chagrin of Michael Freund and his little anti-Messianic group, believe in the Jewish man known as Yeshua of Nazareth.